Everything alive dies. This is the one rule that has never been broken. Every plant, every animal, every human being who has ever lived follows the same path. We are born, we grow, we age, and we die. It is the deepest law of life on Earth. Except, it seems, for one small, almost invisible creature drifting in the world's oceans. It is a jellyfish, a tiny one, smaller than your little fingernail. Just a few millimeters across, a clear, delicate bell, trailing fine tentacles, almost too small to see. You could hold 100 of them in the palm of your hand, and it may have done something that nothing else in the known living world has ever done. It may have escaped death. The creature is called Turritopsis, and to understand what makes it so extraordinary, you have to understand how a jellyfish normally lives. A jellyfish begins its life as a tiny larva, which settles on the sea floor and grows into something called a polyp, a small, stalk-like form anchored to a rock, a little like a sea anemone. From this polyp, the familiar swimming jellyfish, the medusa, eventually buds off and floats away, to grow up, reproduce, and in time, to die. It is a one-way journey. Larva to polyp, to adult, to death, just like ours. Birth to growth, to old age, to the end. But Turritopsis does not always play by these rules. When this little jellyfish is injured, or starving, or sick, or simply growing old, it can do something that should be impossible. Instead of dying, it goes into reverse. Its body begins to transform. The adult jellyfish, the medusa, sinks to the sea floor, and its cells start to change, not to heal, to revert. Its specialized adult cells, the cells of its tentacles, its bell, its nervous system, transform themselves back into a younger, simpler form. The whole animal dissolves its adult body and rebuilds itself backward into a polyp, the juvenile stage, the beginning, the very form it had left behind long ago when it was young. It is as if a butterfly, facing death, could turn itself back into a caterpillar, as if an old man, at the end of his life, could melt back into a child and begin again. Scientists call this process transdifferentiation, the ability of one kind of cell to transform directly into a completely different kind. It is incredibly rare in nature, and Turritopsis does it with its entire body. And here is the part that defies belief. From that new polyp, the cycle can begin all over again. The polyp can bud off new young jellyfish, which grow up, and then, when threatened, can sink down and revert once more, again and again. In theory, there is no limit to how many times it can do this. An animal that, instead of aging toward death, can simply rewind itself back to youth whenever death draws near and start its life over, and over, and over. This is why it has earned an astonishing name, the immortal jellyfish. Now we must be careful with that word. This little creature is not invincible. In the wild, it dies all the time. It is eaten by predators. It falls sick. It is destroyed by the countless dangers of the ocean. Most immortal jellyfish do not, in fact, live forever because something kills them long before they get the chance. But that is the crucial point. Turritopsis does not die of old age. The thing that ends every other life, the slow, inevitable decline of the body over time, the process we call aging, simply does not apply to it. Left undisturbed in principle, it could cycle between youth and adulthood forever. It has not conquered danger, but it appears to have conquered time. And it raises a question that scientists are only beginning to explore. If one animal, however small and simple, can reverse its own aging, rebuild its old body into a young one, and escape death by the clock, then aging is not an unbreakable law of the universe. It is a process, and processes sometimes can be understood, and perhaps one day changed. Researchers now study this tiny jellyfish with great care, reading its genes, watching its cells transform, trying to understand the secret it carries, not because they expect to make humans immortal, but because a creature that can rebuild itself from the inside out, that can turn old cells young again, might hold clues to healing, to regeneration, to the deepest questions of why we grow old at all. All of it, written into the body of an animal so small you would never notice it, drifting past you in the sea. And now, imagine it. Somewhere out in the dark water, right now, a tiny, clear bell of a creature no bigger than a grain of rice is growing old, and instead of dying, it is sinking quietly to the sea floor. Its body is coming apart. Its cells are turning back the clock, and from the remains of the old, a new young polyp is forming, ready to begin the whole story again. It has no brain to know what it is doing, no fear of the death it is escaping. It simply does what it has always done. It begins again. The oldest dream of every living thing, to cheat death, to grow young again, to never truly end, has already come true. In the smallest, simplest, most overlooked creature in the sea.